Hello everyone, I'm Jen here, and I'm joined by my co-hosts Michelle Ocampo and Christina Castro. Now I'll be honest, as always, I've never been a fan of politicians, whether in the United States or the Philippines. It often feels like they prioritize their own interests over the people they're supposed to serve. But today, we're breaking away from that perception. You see, we're about to have a unique and exciting guest on our show. When we found out that the former Vice President of the Philippines, attorney Leni Robredo, would be joining us, it piqued our interest. People describe her as a non-traditional politician, and that's precisely what we're here to explore today. We're honored to welcome attorney Leni Robredo to Makilala TV. You want to delve into her role as a private citizen, her advocacy-centered work, her philosophy on public service, and perhaps even get a glimpse of what the future holds. Attorney Robredo, welcome to Makilala TV.
Hi, Jen. Thank you very much for having me.
Welcome back to New York, ma'am.
Thank you. It's always a pleasure.
Oh, that's great. So, Michelle, you want to...
Yes, I wanted to break the ice a little bit, find out a little bit about you and outside of your day-to-day. So it's going to be some lightning round questions. Very fun, meant to just literally break the ice.
Okay.
My first question is, if you're stranded on an island and there's only one type of dish that you would eat for the rest of your life, what would that be?
Bicolana dish. It's always gata
Gata?
and spice.
Okay.
So everything has to be,
Spicy.
yeah, it's coconut milk
Coconut.
Yes.
and spicy.
Okay, for the rest of your life.
Yes.
Okay.
I can eat Bicolana food every day, the rest of my life.
Okay, next is, what is your favorite ice cream flavor?
It changes. Right now, I think it's salted caramel. For a long time, it was mint chocolate.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Next is, if you had one superpower, what would it be and why?
You know, when I was still vice president, I really wished to have the power of invisibility.
Ah.
But right now,
That's
I think,
intriguing.
yeah. Right now, I wish I would have the power to be in more places at the same time, so I can do a lot of things all at the same time.
I see. Okay. Next is, what is the most adventurous thing that you have ever done?
Marry my husband
Wow.
and enter politics. I got married at a very young age. It was a whirlwind romance, and
How old were you?
I was 20. I just turned 22, and I met my husband only for a few months.
Oh, wow. Few months.
So it
Like love
was
at
the
first
most
sight.
adventurous thing. It was a good thing. I was blessed with a very good husband.
Yes.
And after his death, entering politics, I was never the type.
Okay. And let me see if I have anything. Oh, what is your go-to karaoke song?
You know, I think of all the politicians in the Philippines, I am the only one who doesn't sing.
What, a Filipino who can't
Are you
sing?
sure you're Filipino?
You know, most of the politicians in the Philippines sing during public gatherings because, you know, you attract people.
Yeah, of course.
But I'm the only one who doesn't. But I do dance.
Okay.
You know, when you go to the barangays, social dancing is kind of a thing. And when my husband was still the politician in the family, he doesn't dance, but he sings. So I'm the one who dances for him.
Oh, that's sweet.
Now that you're in a private, now that you have a private life,
I still have a private life.
do you have more me time
Yes.
where you can do things just for yourself?
I think yes and no.
Okay. Tell us
Yes, in the sense that when I was still with government, every time I get invited to speaking engagements, I go, then I travel, then I speak, and then I go home. Right now, especially if that's the first time I'm visiting the place, I do have the privilege of extending a leave. I don't have to hurry back home, and that has been a big blessing for all of us. Now that my children are working already, they now have the capacity to pay for their own travel. So whenever I get invited to a place we've never been to, we make it a point to extend for a few days and visit. So I love that because that was one thing that I've always dreamed of doing, and we are able to do But in terms of pursuing a hobby, reading all the books that are still stacked until now that I haven't read when I was still vice president, I haven't gotten to that yet.
Are you writing a book?
I am planning,
Oh.
but I haven't started yet.
I think Makilala will be in that chapter. Yes. You you like to give back to the community, and you have advocacies. And one thing that really close to your heart is Angat.
Angat Buhay.
Can you tell us more about it?
Angat Buhay is Tagalog for uplifting lives. All my life, I have been a development worker. When I was still a lawyer, when I was still studying law, I studied law while I was married already. I became a lawyer when I had 2 kids already. I think both my father and my husband were the inspiration to pursue a more public life. So when I became a lawyer, I knew that I wanted public service lawyering. So my first work as a lawyer was with the public attorney's office. So we represented people who did not have the means to hire their own lawyers to defend them.
Parang public defense.
Yeah, public defender.
So, more a
But
criminal case or more?
more criminal.
Okay.
More criminal. But after a short stint with the public attorney's office, I discovered a non-government organization. The name is long. It's Sentro ng Alternatibong Linga Panlegal, or Saligan for short. It's an NGO of lawyers, but it's not traditional lawyering. It's alternative lawyering in the sense that we go to the poorest of communities, communities who do not have access to lawyers, who do not have access to justice, marginalized sectors like farmers, fisher folks, indigenous people. So these were the clients we were catering to. So what we did was legal education, preparing them to know the law, with the belief that if they know their rights under the law, they will be in a better position to fight for their rights. So I was with Saligan for more than 10 years. So it sort of shaped who I am, or who I became as a public servant. So that when my husband died, it sort of became the mantra that we had to live by. I knew that I had bigger responsibilities to fulfill because my husband's life was taken away so suddenly. So I was left with the responsibility to take his place. But I knew that deep inside, I was more a development worker than a politician. And I feel like it helped. It helped that I was able to chart my own course as a politician, and there was no pressure at all to do the ways of politics that were there traditionally. So I feel like the first government position that I held was as a member of Congress. So most of the bills that I filed were in furtherance of the advocacies, like our advocacies for farmers, for fisher folk, for women and children. When I became vice president, I knew that, in the Philippines, for those of you who are not familiar, the office of the vice president does not have any real mandate aside from succession. So that if nothing happens to the president, all the vice president does is ceremonial.
Yeah. Is that common among all the countries?
It's
or is
no.
that just in the
In the United States, the vice president is the presiding officer of the Senate. But in the Philippines, no. So I wasn't at all willing to spend 6 years just doing ceremonial work. So as soon as I became vice president, we launched Angat Buhay as an anti-poverty program, with the attempt to reinvent the office of the vice president and convert it from a mere ceremonial office into a more advocacy-heavy office. And we became relevant in 6 years because we were doing a lot of work. The problem with that is that because it is not within our mandate, there was no budget for it. So we had to be creative. But when I say we had to be creative, we devised a way to make it seem like we were a conduit between communities needing help and private organizations wanting to help.
Yeah, you mentioned
So
about
we
like,
were doing those
helping
things.
helping communities, the farmers and the fisher folks. I actually volunteered for Advancement for Rural Kids. It's based in Capiz, sorry,
Capiz.
Capiz in New York. And what I like about the program is that it's not a handout.
Yeah.
You actually partner. With Angat Buhay, is it the same thing, or
Yes.
how do you help?
We don't believe in handouts. With Saligan before, we always work to make communities more empowered. So the work that we do is very empowering. We don't do dole-outs like many politicians do. What we do is we capacitate. We capacitate the communities. In fact, when we adopt communities, we require the local chief executive to go through a bridging leadership program with us. We partner with academic institutions to do the training for us. Because I was vice president for only 6 years, and we don't want to start something that's not sustainable. So whenever we start projects, there's a commitment from the community that beyond our term, those projects will continue. Because if they will not continue, then it's a total waste of resources. So it's really, from our end, it's more capacity building. It's really preparing the community to, the absorptive capacity of the community to get help from outside sources. So it's mainly that. We don't do medical missions for the sake of medical missions.
Where do you get your money to run your foundation?
From-
How do you raise funds?
We partner. We partner with local organizations. One thing, the realization in the Philippines is that there are so many people who want to help but don't know how.
Yeah.
So we provide that platform. So here in the US, we partner with Angat Buhay USA, led
Roger.
by Roger Santos.
Yeah.
They were Angkop, and then we partnered with them. They became Angat Buhay, and they've been helping us with many of our programs. So that's how it works.
Can foreign governments?
We do partner with embassies in the Philippines. So, for example, the embassy of the U.S. helps us train youth leaders. Most of these youth leaders are in Mindanao, so it's really promoting peace and stability in Mindanao. So the U.S. embassy helps us. We partner with the Swedish embassy. We partner with the British embassy. So we partner with a lot of embassies in Manila.
And one of the pillars of Angat Buhay I saw was public health.
Yes.
So I'm one of the board members of a group in the Philippines based in Palawan called Roots of Health, or Ugat ng Kalusugan. What has Angat Buhay done to really help connect with reproductive health education?
When I was still vice president, one of the biggest problems of the Philippines is teenage pregnancy.
Exactly. Yes.
So we partnered with UNFPA, doing a lot of education programs in the communities where the rates of teenage pregnancies are high. So it's mostly education, capacity building, involving the communities to be more empowered to combat the rise of teenage pregnancies. And then when the pandemic arrived, we shifted to a teleconsult platform where the intent then was to help decongest the hospitals. I don't know if you've read it, but at the height of the pandemic, a lot of Filipinos were dying and couldn't be admitted to hospitals because hospitals were too congested. So we wanted to help, and we created a free teleconsult platform. And I think the most wonderful thing that happened there was that we had more than 2,000 volunteers. Half of these volunteers were doctors. Half of these volunteers were non-medical volunteers who were doing who were doing all the tech-related back-end work of it. We were able to help hundreds of thousands of patients through our teleconsultation programs. And then when the COVID cases started decreasing, surprisingly, mental health cases were on the rise.
Surprisingly,
So right now,
yeah.
So right now, we call the program Bayanihan e-Consulta. If before we were mostly doing COVID patient consultations, now it's mainly mental health.
What are the mental health issues?
A lot.
Filipinos
A lot.
face?
There's a lot. But you know, it's alarming, but I think it's also positive that more people are seeking help. Because before, stigma was very high as far as mental cases are concerned. But right now, we have a long list of teleconsult patients. We have thousands of volunteers still, but we really lack mental health practitioners in the Philippines.
Even here, where it's
We-
sorely lacking
So,
people of color
yeah.
who are practitioners.
We partner with a lot of mental health organizations. We partner with counselors. We partner with psychologists. But you know, most of the consultations, most of the consultants would recommend them to talk to a medical practitioner or a psychiatrist. But that's what we lack.
There's so many nonprofit organizations, many charitable places, and I think there's hope for our people in the Philippines that their lives will be uplifted or get out of poverty.
There's, I'm very hopeful. I'm very hopeful because we see that with Angat Buhay, that there are so many people who want to help. But it can't be just Angat Buhay. It has to be an all-of-society approach. And ideally, it should be government spearheading that approach. Meaning to say, if government takes the lead, and if government is inspiring, a lot of people will join the movement.
By government, you mean social media?
Not really. It can be national government as a whole because it happened in 1986. In 1986, when most people were so inspired by the change that was happening, civil society was very active. And at that time, civil society was working very, very closely with government, but that stayed on only for a while. And because if people are uninspired, there are so few who want to work with government.
Yeah, not really motivated.
So for example, with Angat Buhay, we're doing a lot of things, but we're a very small organization.
What's Angat Buhay and Angat Pinas? Pilipinas. Angat Pinas.
When I ended, Angat Buhay is the program.
Okay.
So when I ended my term as vice president, we wanted to continue with Angat Buhay because it was such a waste to just end it because I ended my term. And we wanted Angat Buhay to be an NGO, but when we were trying to register Angat Buhay as an NGO, somebody else used Angat Buhay already. So we couldn't register the name Angat Buhay, so we made it Angat Pinas. And Angat Pinas is the official name of the organization, but Angat Buhay is a program of Angat Pinas.
Are you all over the country? In
Yes,
every
we
province?
are.